Two.
Hello, Dickie Chavis. I'm Nathan Scovens, the oldest son of Dr. Nathan Scovens.
Glad to meet you, young man. As I said, I have known your father for a long time.
Hello, Mr. Chavis. I'm Josh Scovens, the youngest son of Dr. Nathan Scovens.
Glad to meet you, too. You both are fine-looking young men.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right, Dickie Chavis, what do you remember about the old church?
Well, we experienced peer pressure back at that time, just like you all experience peer pressure now. Except it's a different type of peer pressure. When I came along, you didn't have cell phones. Very, very, very few people had telephones. You had no television. And so if I did something, say I lived in Winston-Salem, it might take a week for it to get to Greensboro. And somebody would have to know my father and my mother to know me for them to transfer information back. Where at this day and time, you can do something here, and in 5 minutes, it can be on CNN and across the world. So that's why, in being a young man like you all are today, you have to develop good traits, be Christian-like, and doesn't mean that you can't still associate with certain people, but you have to learn how to differentiate yourself from certain people. And you learn those traits. Everybody is not being trained and raised like you all are. Now, you can be friends with them, but you don't do the things that they do and go the places that they go because it's not becoming to who you are and how you are presented. The old saying is, birds of a feather flock together. And that's a true saying.
So, Deacon Chavis, can you tell us about, how was it when your father became ill? Did he still preach after that?
My father was a pastor from as long as I can remember until he passed away. And of course, he was pastoring a church in a little place called Oaksboro,
yes,
for North Carolina. Now, and they came here in 1927, but he still pastored that church for 32 years before they called him to come to Galilee. They got together and they asked my father would he consider being pastor of the church because he had preached so much for them. And he's at the age of 67. He decided he was getting older and he was going to retire and he need not be driving because I would drive at this time. See, I was grown at this time. But all my former years, I was under him. But I was driving and I would take him back and forth to church. So he decided to come. And I remember distinctively, after the church called him, and he was so, I'd say, caught up in the moment, and he was so attached to his previous church and their people. To the Sunday that he was supposed to preach his sermon as pastor of Galilee, he had a massive stroke that Saturday. And he couldn't do it. But the stroke didn't paralyze him completely to where he couldn't. It didn't affect his mind that much, but it did paralyze his side. So he came back and preached for a while. But then he realized that he wouldn't be able to build the church, and the church wanted to be built. So there was a man by the name of Dr. Warnie C. Hay, who my sister, and he sang on the First Calvary Baptist Church choir together. That's our former church. And he had began preaching. I heard him preach his trial sermon at First Calvary. A wonderful man. And he said, I can't tell you who to call. He said, but if you want to build this church, say, give that young man a chance. Say, he's a Christian. I've known him all his life. And said, he will build this church. And at that particular time, the church was facing east. He came there, and they built that church up, brought it out, turned it around, had it facing Martin Luther King. I feel a part of Galilee. And I see great things for you all. I see great things.
Thank you.
Great things for you. And you are a spitting image of your father too. Smile and everything. And I just hope the Lord will let me live and be around to see you both grow up. You're fine young men. And whatever God has for you to do, do it. But whatever He has for you to do, keep your hand in God. Listen to your parents. Listen to the old people. Respect old people.
Thank you, Deacon Chavis, for sharing with us in the Galilee family.
Thank you.